Boom, we are live, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. It's your boy Nolan Huckeye Anthony here. And I do really hope that you guys are having a fantastic Saturday, wherever you may be. And however you may be listening, regardless of Iowa getting shellacked by Purdue. And I'm going to dive into this hard, y'all. I'm going to dive into this hard. Hopefully, I can keep all of the thoughts in my head coherent. Hopefully, I can keep my thoughts coherent. By the way, if you're not subscribed, be sure to subscribe. I want to show you guys something here. And this is not me saying that you guys are not awesome fans, because you guys are absolutely incredible, but I just do think we can do a better job. Of all the people that watch the videos where you guys have watched over 4,000 hours of content, 85.5% of you guys are not subscribed, and only 14.6% of you being subscribed is actually a really good number. From what I understand, about 10% is good. Here, let me share this out real quick. Iowa versus Purdue, post game, Iowa upset at home. Oh man, so sad, so sad. So just subscribe, and at the very least, if you don't feel like hitting that subscribe button, which really isn't hard at all, comment. I try and get to all your guys' comments, and I will definitely be getting that hurt, to your guys' comments today, that's for sure. And we will dive into this. Where to begin first? I know I'm starting this early, by the way. I'm well aware. And some of you guys are going to say, well, it's not over till it's over. Guys, it's over. I have many things to do today, so I am not going to spend the rest of the game watching Iowa struggle. I'm just not going to do it. Where to begin? Iowa started the game pretty good. There was the pass to Keegan Johnson, and then Iowa just kind of went away from Keegan Johnson. They just kind of went away. I don't understand that. Phil Parker's kryptonite is obviously Jeff Brom and Purdue. The whole game, it just isn't a good matchup, But the weird thing, because the bottom line is a team like Purdue, what they do is they rack up a bunch of yards against you. And Iowa plays a prevent zone style defense with some zone blitzing. But they make you make mistakes. And Purdue did not make mistakes today. They did not. But the weird thing is that in the past, against USC, against Penn State, against Ohio State, teams with similar offenses, Iowa has done just fine. And I think the answer is what I've already said. And I do have experience with this playing Division I water polo. I think because in my experience, the toughest team to play is a team that is not elite or good, but very much average, or they're somewhere in between good and average. That is a tough team to play against, because you don't get up for it like you do against Penn State, but you still do prepare decently for the most part. Purdue did have a bye week. I do think that played a little bit of a role in them being more prepared for this game. Iowa did have a huge game against Penn State the week prior, so you could argue that Iowa, I don't know, had a letdown from a very emotionally high game the week before. But the bottom line is those are just excuses. The bottom line is that Iowa has been beaten by Purdue at least three of the last four meetings. I think it might be four of the past five meetings, but I'm not 100% sure about that. And so they should have been ready for this game. They should have been looking to avenge their losses. By the way, David Eichholt, and I'm not a big fan of the Iowa media. The Iowa media always does their best. It doesn't matter if the story is inaccurate with very little proof at all. Just, I could give a prime example, but I'll give an easy one. The Penn State injuries. The Iowa media was writing stories about it the entire week. Even though any former athlete at the collegiate level, you have one right here, will tell you that people that in any team sport and players go down all the time as a strategy. But anyways, I'll give David Eichholt some love here. Not playing well in one game doesn't negate what a player does in his previous outings. Yes, Spencer Petras hasn't played great, but acting like he hasn't played well all year or the past few years is inaccurate. Great take, David. Great take, dude. Great take. He's right, but it is a pretty vanilla take, in my opinion. But this is definitely sad. The Iowa defense, they didn't get any turnover, or they got one turnover, but I remember showing you guys that video where two of the guys said that eventually Iowa's luck would run out and eventually their offense would have to win the game. And for the most part, that was kind of correct. Iowa's offense, as bad as the Iowa defense played today, or mediocre, they still only gave up 24 points. They might break the 25-point margin, but in this day and age, and especially against, and I showed you guys the stats of this Purdue defense, it's actually pretty good. Their defense is actually pretty good, but nonetheless, you could score against Penn State. You could score against Ohio State in the past. You should score more than 20 points against Purdue at home, no less. In the 7th week of the season, no less. And so while Iowa has a bye week and all of that, okay, I would be lying if I said I'm not a little bit concerned about Iowa moving forward. We have not. The bottom line is, guys, we haven't seen the leap forward that I have been telling you guys that Iowa would have offensively. We haven't seen it. And I liked that they had Keegan Johnson in early. I liked that they got the ball to him early, but they went away from him. Tyrone Tracy was dropping balls like normal. That's a normal thing. He always drops passes. The Iowa tight ends, Iowa has not been going to them as much the last 2 weeks. So this game was just pathetic. It was just pathetic. Iowa couldn't get anything going. They missed a field goal inside the 15-yard line. Caleb Shudak shanked it. I don't know if it was his fault or the snap. I don't know. There was the 4th down. How about this, guys? Iowa got the ball. They stopped Purdue in Iowa territory in the 4th quarter, and they did nothing with the ball. 4 and out. They did nothing. And then Purdue scores on the next drive. On top of that, Iowa gets the ball back. They march down the field, and they go for it on fourth down and they don't get it. They don't get it. So just a lot of not good things. And if we're being honest here, the defensive line got very little pressure all day. So I can't put all the pressure. I mean, Iowa's defensive line made Purdue's offensive line look all pro. They made them look all pro. If we look at all the phases, okay, the interception, Purdue. If we look at all the phases, okay, the special teams, Ivory Kelly Martin had a nice return, but Iowa did nothing with it. Caleb Shudak missed a field goal. So the elite special teams that Iowa has played terrible or average. The elite defense Iowa had didn't play awful, but they didn't play like Iowa's defense normally can. And again, if we're being honest, Purdue's defense played much better than Iowa's defense. In every phase, Purdue played better than Iowa. And the reason why it bothers me so much is because Purdue is average. They are an average football team. They're an average football team, and they just went into Iowa City and beat Iowa by double digits. So, yeah, I'm a little bit concerned. I'll go to your guys' comments in a second, I promise. If Iowa would have lost this game by 3 points or by a touchdown, and there were some good things, I would feel okay. But the fact that Iowa's offense has not made any improvement at all worries me. It worries me because I don't know how going into a bye week is going to improve that. And we have seen in the past, when Iowa's offense struggles, a bye week doesn't really do anything. When Iowa's offense struggles, it usually continues to struggle, and then one or two, finally, when it's way too late, it does better. So I'm really hoping that this offense doesn't figure it out too little too late. And I am really hoping that Iowa does not let this game determine their entire season. Because the Big Ten, and I told you guys, a lot of you guys were saying that, Final Four, college football playoff. That's fine. That's all good. Okay. But my concern and what should be all of our concern is the Big Ten West champion. We need to be the Big Ten West champion. And we are still in excellent position to win the Big Ten West. Okay. We are still in excellent position to win the Big Ten West. To be honest, we're still in excellent position to make the college football playoff. If Iowa wins out from here, including the Big Ten championship game, they will make to the college football playoff. They can't lose another game. They won't make the college football playoff if they lose another game. And if we're being honest, them losing to Purdue won't help matters, because even though Purdue will be 4 wins and 2 losses after this game, most people don't really respect Purdue. Some of you guys have asked me, is Purdue actually the best team in the Big Ten West? No, I don't think so. I think Purdue will drop 1 or 2 more games the rest of the season, and I do not foresee Iowa dropping 2 more games this season. Oh, all right. I'm going to go to your guys' comments, man. I'm sad. I am. I can't help it, guys. I am such an adamant Iowa fan through and through. I have been since I was a kid. This is such a letdown. It would be one thing if Iowa lost to Wisconsin. It'd be one thing if they lost to Minnesota, a rival, or they lost to Nebraska, a rival, even though Nebraska sucks. It would be one thing if they lost to any one of those teams. But losing to Purdue at home, man, give me a break. I'm going to go to your guys' comments, but I want to show you guys the scoreboard real quick. The scoreboard. I'm hurting, guys. I told you guys I had a lady friend over, and I had to tell her that I'd have to see her later because I just couldn't handle any of this. I was getting way too frustrated. And as a man, I don't like losing my cool. I like to be cool, calm, and collected. Michigan State beat Indiana, so that did not help the Hawkeyes. Minnesota beat Nebraska. Nebraska is 3-5, and Northwestern beat Rutgers. So there is that. All right, guys, I'm going to go to your guys' comments now. Paul Hoffer, big letdown. At home, okay to lose, but not this way. Couldn't agree more. Blake Morris, Purdue made Petrus beat them. Iowa needed to double cover Bell. Agreed. I agree there. I don't know what Phil Parker was thinking all game. I mean, literally, how many times? Maybe it's that he's being arrogant or stubborn. I don't know. But how many times does Purdue need to have a 100-yard receiver on Yo ASS for you to not double cover whoever is getting the chunk of? I mean, I showed you guys the last 4 or 5 games Iowa's played Purdue, and they have had a double-digit receiver in each of those games. Purdue stopped Iowa's running game, and that's how they won. Purdue seems to have our number some reason. I don't understand it. I really don't understand it. CJ Smith, I'm depressed and want to die right now. Right there with you, CJ. Right there with you. Michael Morin, missing Moss shouldn't make this big of an impact. Our entire offense is embarrassing. I hate to say it, but I agree. I hate to say it. And I'm someone who does not believe in overreacting. But the biggest concern for me is that we are 7 games into the season, and not one game has Iowa's offense looked average. It hasn't even looked average. And in a game where our special team played average and our defense played not as good as it can, Iowa's offense was forced to step up, and they did not answer the bell one iota. They did not even they didn't even get up to the bell in order to ring it. They just that was it. So I'm a little concerned about the offense. This is tough, guys. I don't think you guys realize how hard it is to do this show right now after this loss. Donnie Edwards, need a new offensive coordinator. Maybe. I mean, the thing with Brian Ferentz is again, this is all about honesty here, okay? Brian Ferentz is an excellent tight end coach. And I think he's a good coach overall. And he is statistically the best offensive coordinator Kirk Ferentz has had in his tenure. Now, does all of that mean he's a good offensive coordinator? No. And he has had flashes of brilliance, against Ohio State, against USC, games like that. He's had flashes of brilliance. But I think sometimes he just gets in his own way. I don't understand it. Sometimes he calls the games very smoothly, and other times he calls it like an offensive lineman, very clunky, very chunky, and just downright not good. So, but I'm not necessarily willing to yank Brian Ferentz, fully though. Donnie Edwards, horrible play calling. Blake Morris, Iowa isn't going to get a new OC. That's true. They're not. Hi Hawkeye, our offense is like missionary style with an old crusty ex-girlfriend. That's true. It is. Although last video I said, missionary is not so bad. You just get up in there and you just get it done. And that's that. Blake Morris, this didn't help our recruiting. You're right. It didn't. Iowa had a ton of momentum, and I'm glad you brought this up, Blake. I really am. That is probably my biggest concern. Iowa had phenomenal momentum. And I was expecting 1 or 2 guys to commit after this weekend, but I'm not so sure about that now, because the momentum that Iowa had after the Penn State win, and the sheer sadness of losing at home to an average Purdue team, it really brings down the momentum. So we'll see what they if they can still convince some of these recruits that it's all good. It would be one thing if Iowa had another game directly after this Purdue game so that they could just shake off that Purdue game. But the fact that they have a bye week, I just agree. This is not good for recruiting. Petrus, 3 interceptions. 24 points is not a bad defensive performance. Agree. That's from Blake Jameson, which is what I said, especially considering the amount of time that Purdue had the ball and how devastating our offensive performance was for the team. Agreed. I would say that defensively, it was okay, with the exception of not getting as many turnovers as the defense usually does, which they usually do. But overall, I would say the defense played a good enough game for Iowa to win. Okay. Most teams would hope to have this version of Iowa's defense every weekend. So I would agree with that. Big Irish Balls says this was lights out, the worst game I have witnessed in 35 years. I can't say I disagree. Guys, I'm hurting. This is very hard to do. I mean, like I said, I am a hot Iowa fan to my core. You can't put it all on your defense every game. The law of average kicks in. I had Iowa 33-20, but I didn't see this train wreck coming. By the way, I was wrong, guys. I hate when commentators never say that they're wrong. I don't think of myself as a commentator, but I was wrong. I thought Iowa would step up in this game and play a good, mature football game, but they swung and missed, and I was wrong. I was wrong. Iowa looked flat. Paul Masson, the only good Iowa offensive game called by Brian Ferentz was the Maryland game. Piss poor coaching offensively. Well, but before that, he has called good games against USC. I don't want to be a Brian Ferentz apologist because I'm not, okay? But he has called some magnificent games before. But it really is just the clunkiness, and it takes too long for the Iowa offense to get going and on track within a season. If I was Brian Ferentz, what I would do is I would bring it back down to earth and just start incorporating some easier plays, such as more screens, such as more, the tiger formation with Tyler Goodson. Where has that been? I haven't seen that in 2 weeks. You need to incorporate. You can't just do shotgun in under center all game. You can't. There was the one jet sweep that Iowa did with Tyrone Tracy that went nowhere, by the way. But just because it goes nowhere doesn't mean you can't go back to it one more time later. So what I'm saying is that if I was Brian Ferentz, I would incorporate some easier, but also what's the word for it? Easier, but tricky stuff for the defense to track with their eyes. A lot of pre-snap stuff, but then just at the end of the day, an easy pass and catch completion, a slant, just all these things. Too many post routes, too many this and that. The one of the best plays Iowa had was a slant to Keegan Johnson. That was one of the best plays Iowa had, was a slant to Keegan Johnson. Why not go back to that? Why not do that again? That's why I keep telling you guys that college football coaches are gym teachers. That's what they are. Don't expect them to come up with these masterful decisions, a Hail Mary at the end of the second half or anything like that, because it would be too logical. It would be too smart of a decision. Now, and I'm not saying that I would be any better of a coach or anything like that, but, I remember I heard Clay Travis say that, and I totally agree. Michael Morin, make McNutt the new offensive coordinator. I'm willing to try anything. Bat bleat crazy once. Yeah, I don't know how McNutt is doing. I did a video for the most likely candidates to replace Kirk Ferentz when it's time, and I did put Marvin McNutt in there as a honorable consideration. I don't think he's ready to be a head coach, but offensive coordinator, I could see that. And I'll tell you what, he'd be a hell of a recruiter. I'll tell you that. Blake Jameson, the defense didn't play badly. The scheming is suspect. I don't understand how all these years Purdue can somehow solve this. I don't get it either. The only answer I have from my experience in sports is that Purdue is an average to good football team, and Iowa prepared accordingly. They didn't over prepare, but they didn't under prepare either. And it just was kind of meh. That's kind of what it was. Hi, Hawkeye. Shoot. Let me see here. Two worst quarterbacks in the Big Ten, Petrus and Martinez. According to PFF, that's not necessarily true, but today it didn't look good. Donnie Edwards, he called the game east to west too much and not north and south. Yeah, I would agree with that. I agree. Missionary gets the job done, but you can't do missionary every game. Who says? Big Irish balls. Bottom line, absolutely no excuse. It stinks to get handled like that, but not to get manhandled. You're right. You're right. A bunch of men out there for Iowa just got manhandled. They did. I remember when we would lose games in water polo, our coach would basically challenge our masculinity. And it worked. I'll say that much. It worked, because it is not a cool thing to get manhandled the way Iowa just did. Blake Jameson, crusty X's are the best for real. Maybe one time, but after that, they get kind of old. Blake Morris, Iowa needs to recruit better QBs and get better quarterback coach. Well, here's what I will say. Okay. If we look at Ken O'Keefe, okay, he coached Jake Rudak, and Jake Rudak went on to the NFL. He coached CJ Beathard. CJ Beathard went on to the NFL, but you also could give some of the credit to Greg Davis to them. And he also coached Nate Stanley, who also went on to the NFL. So the development of the quarterback, Ken O'Keefe actually has a pretty good track record. As for the recruiting, the quarterbacks that Iowa has on the roster, Spencer Petrus was a 4-star quarterback all the way around. Alex Padilla was a 3-star, but he did have big-time offers from Georgia and a few other places. Deuce Hogan was a high 3-star, low 4-star quarterback. The quarterback that Iowa just took, Joey Levis, was a 247 sports 4-star quarterback. So I don't know if I would agree with that fully, but I will say that sometimes Ken O'Keefe will recruit a very stiff, immobile quarterback. And now I'm not a big believer that you need a quarterback like Adrian Martinez, because at the end of the day, what good is running if you can't complete the football? But it is nice it's always nice to have a quarterback like CJ Beathard, where if there's nothing open, he can take off and run and get something. Okay. He's not a running quarterback, but he can get something on the ground. That's always nice. Big Irish balls, you do a great job, and glad I can vent on a great show. Thank you. I appreciate it. The support from you guys has been amazing. It really has. The reason why I started this is so we could all get together and hang out. I live all the way out in California, so I can't, be out in Iowa City. But my ties to Iowa are very strong indeed. So by the way, hit the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. Get this channel over 1,000 subs. Okay. All right. Blake Morris, agree. We need a more mobile quarterback. Blake Jameson, how much would you throw a game for? That's a good question. Well, let's say somebody came up to me in college and offered me 20 grand to throw a game in water polo. I'd probably take it. I know that probably isn't the best answer or most righteous answer, but I was also, I had no money. And unlike these football guys in water polo, you only get a quarter scholarship at most. Okay. The guys who get the people who get full scholarships are the women. Okay. They get full scholarships because of Title IX, and football and basketball. Those are the ones who get full scholarships, not, any of the other smaller men's sports. But, that's also our fault. If we made the sport more interesting, we'd get more. Anyways, you guys don't care about that. But 20,000, I would start at $20,000 and work my way up. If I were if I were Brian Ferentz, I would invest in a bunker underground. Let me see here. I'm trying to catch up with all your guys' messages. The Michael Morin, the offense definitely needs to have their masculinity challenged. Totally agree. We don't need dual threat per se. We just need a quarterback that is decisive, a little athletic, and a little tough. I would agree with that wholeheartedly. I really would, Mr. Jameson. Springtime 0502. We need a dual threat quarterback, not some like Martinez, but someone who defenses have to respect the legs. The problem with now, Iowa does have that. The quarterback that they just took, Joey Labus, the 4-star, is very mobile. Okay. I did an analysis. Well, I don't think I did, but he's very mobile. So Iowa does have it. But the problem when you get a mobile quarterback is sometimes they trust it too much and they don't develop their passing game. But in this day and age where strength and conditioning is so good and these athletes are so athletically gifted, there's no excuse. You need to be able to at least run for a few first downs. And unfortunately, Petras can't do that. But for me, I put more of the blame on the play calling and the receivers dropping balls left and right, because look at David Bell. He is an elite wide receiver. Okay. Look at how much him and the other wide receiver for Purdue helped out their average quarterbacks. Can you honestly say that any of the Iowa wide receivers would be able to help Spencer Petras in the same way? Hell no. The answer is hell to the no. Iowa needs a quarterback like Brad Banks. Yeah, every year that'd be great if Iowa could get that. Underway shift colors. Purdue has the Hawks number. That's right, they do. Does Brad Banks have any eligibility left? Whew. Doubt it. Let's see here. I'm asking all of you seriously, how much do you think a college player would throw a game for? I think most players would take $10,000. I'm being honest. I'm thinking back to my college teammates. I would say 10 grand would be enough. I would be happy with what Clifford was able to do on his feet 30 times at best from Blake Morris. Does De'Aaron King still play? We need a quarterback like that guy, athletic and explosive. Hi, Hawkeye. Purdue football just tweeted, we beat the number 2 team out of Iowa. Yeah, terrible. Just terrible. Just terrible. It's so sad. It really is. I hope Iowa takes this very personally. No super chat. No, I don't have a super chat yet because the channel has not reached 1,000 subscribers. That's why I'm telling you guys to get it up to 1,000 subscribers, and we can have a super chat. And also, the channel can make ad revenue. There's 2 steps in order to be able to make money off your channel. You need to have 4,000 hours watched by you guys, the fan. Check, we've done that. and you need to have over 1,000 subscribers. We are very close, but not quite there. Matter of fact, I'll show you guys this right now. Again, of all the people who have watched over the 4,000 plus hours of my content, 85.5% of you guys are not subscribed. So there you have it. All right. But if you do want to help me out, I do have a PayPal link, and I will put that in the description. Matter of fact, you know what? Screw it. Let me put that in the chat right now. You know what? Screw it. Why not? By the way, I've been asking you guys this. Who do you put more blame on? The running game, Brian Ferentz, the passing game, or the wide receiver group? For me, it is definitely the wide receiver group. So there we go. I'm thinking that Ferentz. Oh, hold on. Where did Tyrone Tracy disappear to? No idea. He's been gone since the beginning of the season. He has been gone. Same with Nico Reganey. I know Nico Reganey had a nice whatever he did last week, but since then, you know, those guys have been very average, which is why Keegan Johnson and Arlen Bruce saw more snaps. The problem is they didn't get the damn ball. That's the big problem. I'm thinking that Ferentz is going to retire after this year. He's been emotional. He's been funny. Stoops was hanging around last week, and I think that Ferentz Jr. is in the NFL. I do want to comment on this. That's a good comment, Blake. Okay. I don't know if Ferentz is ready to retire. If I had to give it, and by the way, I did a video that you guys can go and check out for who I think is the best person, the top 5 and honorable mention to replace Kirk Ferentz. The bottom line is Kirk Ferentz is at the top of the mountain. Since 2015, Iowa has been excellent, absolutely excellent. They haven't gone to the Big Ten West or the Big Ten championship outside of 2015, but overall they've been excellent, putting guys in the NFL and all of that. The fact of the matter, though, is if you don't think that the allegations have definitely made a stressful situation for Kirk, you are sadly mistaken. Most people in general are afraid to be called anything derogatory. Never mind, you're the head football coach of a team. I also want to say my 247hawkeye.com was the only website who pushed forth any I don't want to say non-biased, but middle of the road questions that were just logical questions to ask, such as, if number one, I worked with Cavante Martin-Manley when I first started doing this, and he did not say not one thing negatively about the Iowa football program. On top of that, if Iowa was this terribly disparaging program, why were they putting so many guys in the NFL? Why were they recruiting so well? I mean, wouldn't they be doing terribly if those things were absolutely correct? So anyways, but none of the Iowa media gave any questions like that. And that's why I keep telling you guys, the Iowa media are not fans like you and I are. They will do anything for a story that they know you guys will click on. So that is that. But that's a long way of saying I do not think that this is Kirk Ferentz's last year. I don't think so. Now, if Iowa makes it to the college football playoff, if Iowa wins the Big Ten championship, maybe. But if I had to bet, I would say no. We number 6 wide receiver and Arlen Bruce. You mad? Bent why? Okay. Mad about what? We got some drama brewing up in the chat section. Guarantee we have a Purdue or Nebraska fan getting up in here. It is what it is. Dennis Barnes, Purdue did beat Iowa like their drum. Bell ran all over the defense. Iowa's offensive line is weak on the edges. Well, I would say they're more weak on the inside, but the defensive line did get zero pressure. Purdue showed what they do. Iowa didn't prep for the game. For the most part, Dennis, I would agree. That was my grandfather's name, by the way, Dennis. Dennis Wessels was his name. Out of Fort Dodge, Iowa. Fort Dump, Iowa. Brian Ferentz is afraid to throw the deep ball. Yeah, that's a good point. Why not take a few shots downfield, one or two, just to keep the Purdue defense honest? Why not take one or two just for shites and giggles? I mean, Keegan Johnson and Arlen Bruce have shown that they can burn a defense. Why not? Why not do it? Gosh, so many things wrong with this game. Iowa played like they were scared. I don't. One of the things that one of my coaches used to say is don't play scared. Don't ever play scared. And Iowa played scared today. They did. This man, Austin Anderson, this man lives in Cali. We got to get him to 1,000. Guys, California's struggling. You got to get me to 1,000 subs. California is going to, shite in a handbasket. This state is over. I wish I could show you guys some of the homeless communities that are brewing up in the cities. But obviously this, I do an Iowa Hawkeye thing, not all that. If there's any reason to help the channel and in whatever way you want, there's two reasons. One, I live in California, and two, we are Iowa fans together. If we're playing the blame game, let me see here. If we're playing the blame game, is all of the above an option? Yeah, it is. I didn't see Keegan Johnson after the first play from scrimmage. I blame Brian the most at this point. Second, Petrus. Third, our O-line. I like that. I would put the wide receiver group in there. But for the most part, I like that. Big Irish ball sent. You got dough from the big balls. Thanks, brother. I appreciate it. Really, I really do appreciate that big time. Blake Jameson, all the guys that were on the suit were guys that dropped out or never made it. True. That's accurate. That is accurate. Like I said, Cavante Martin-Manley, and I had many conversations with him personally. Okay. Personally. And had he stuck with our friendship, his clothing line on my channel, or, us working together, it would have been amazing. But, there were a lot of issues there. I don't need to go into it all. But all I'm saying is he never said one thing disparaging about the Iowa program. In fact, he actually said, things about other programs, like other programs pay their players this and that, which is 100% the truth. I already knew that. But, anyways. The lawsuit smelled the BS. The lawsuit for me just adds another reason why Ferentz would leave. It's possible. I definitely think that is why Derek Foster and Tim Polasek, who I has as the number one person to replace Kirk Ferentz, I think that's why they both left. Definitely Tim Polasek. George is just one again, dominant defense as usual. Go Dogs. Let's go Cincinnati. We don't have any height at receiver to challenge for the ball. It has the benefit of drawing a PI, but yeah, that's true. The only wide receivers Iowa has with some height would be Desmond Hudson. It would be the high 3-star wide receiver out of Ankeny, who also what is his name? The kid that was a big baseball talent. I'm blanking on it. Brody Beck. But apparently they're not ready to get on the field. What do I do for a living? I'm a behavior analyst. That is a bachelor's degree in psychology, an AA degree in psychology, and a master's degree in psychology. But in all honesty, I would say don't go to school. Just do whatever you want. School is a waste of money. Let's face it. Coaching and players are a problem offensively, but Iowa standard, this O-line isn't even Division I quality. I agree, especially outside of Linderbaum, and our wide receiver and quarterback are never on the same page. What it sounded like was the coaches didn't want to put up with the distractions and attitude. Guys, and I don't really mean to brag about this too much, but and it's not meant to be bragging. It's just meant to put my point across more, okay? There is not one coach I had in my entire life that did not scream and yell and get in my face. And you know what? I'm a better man because of it. Plain and simple. Okay. Plain and simple. If you guys heard some of the things that were said to me and my players, you would laugh and you'd be like, ooh, I don't know if I could take that. But that is how men act together. That it is what it is. And but in this day and age, the reality is that there's a softness going on in our culture, and it is what it is. And I'm not so sure that coaches will be able to get with it, be able to raise their voices for long here. And I'm a better man for it. I'm okay with it. But just because this culture is becoming so weak, and anyways, does Iowa drop out of the top 10? That's a good question. I don't think so. I think that they will stay top 8. I think they'll stay top 8. But I also wouldn't be surprised because they did get their ASS whooped by Purdue. Okay, when Ohio State lost, they didn't get their butts kicked. These other teams that lost, they didn't get their butts kicked like Iowa did. So I don't think Iowa will, because they have the second toughest strength of schedule. But if they do, I also wouldn't be surprised. You don't think Stoops is a candidate or likelihood to replace Ferentz? No, I do not. No, I do not. He is happy what he's doing outside of football. And, the question you have to ask is, what motivation does he have? Another white coach to get blamed for everything. Why would he do that? Why would he do that? So I don't see it happening. I like Young. He's the man. Stoops is definitely going to replace KF. It'd be awesome if he did, but I don't see it happening. Maybe his brother, but not him. They were exposed. They knew Bell was good, and the best way they had and did nothing to stop him. Robert White. Totally true. Spot on, Nolan. Soft society from Big Irish Balls. All right, guys. I got to all your guys' comments. Sincerely, thank you guys so much for hanging out. I'm going to give you guys my final statement here. As long as Iowa takes this to heart and internalizes this in a positive direction, they should be okay. I like Iowa's remaining schedule. They still will be number 1 in the Big Ten West. And if we're being honest, the toughest part of their schedule is done. How many of you guys expected Iowa to be 6-0 before this game? I know that the Iowa media did not. All of them had Iowa losing at least 2 games by the time this game rolled around. So Iowa is still in excellent position. The schedule is the remaining schedule is the easier part of the schedule, even though Iowa does have some rivalries coming up. But as long as Iowa prepares and takes a good hard look at this tape, they should be okay. But the number one thing, in my opinion, is Iowa needs to find a way to make their run game dynamic again. It's way too mediocre at this point. They need to make it dynamic. All right, guys. Thank you guys so much for hanging out. I really do appreciate it. We were able to commiserate our misery together, and that is all good. If you want to support the channel, subscribe. I put the PayPal link in the description if you want to help out monetarily. But either way, just thank you guys so much for your support. I really love doing this. And it is an awesome community to be a part of. All right, guys, like, share, the whole 9 yards. And I will be putting out another video next week. DBAP, don't be a pussy willow.